should have known something was wrong when Eric started carrying a gun. Not in some tough guy concealed carry kind of way, but in a paranoid, constantly looking over his shoulder kind of way. Like he'd have it in his lap while eating in McDonald's, his knee bouncing like he was expecting an ambush in the middle of his McChicken. The guy had anxiety before, sure, but nothing like this. It got bad fast. He stopped working, barely left his apartment, and every time I visited, there'd be 2, sometimes 3 extra locks on his door. I even caught him setting up a cheap Amazon security cam in the hallway outside his place. He wasn't just nervous, he was obsessed. And then he told me about the personal security package. We were sitting in his apartment, a tiny 1-bedroom that smelled like instant noodles and stale weed. He had his laptop open, showing me some sketchy-looking dark web marketplace. The title of the service was in all caps: Total Personal Security, 24/7, Protection from All Threats. "Dude, you paid for this?" I asked, scrolling through the listing. He nodded fast. $2,000, lifetime coverage, no refunds. His hands were shaking. He wasn't even smoking, just shaking. "What's the catch?" Eric licked his lips, glancing at his front door like someone was listening. "No catch. They don't explain how it works, but people in the forum say it's legit. No one who's used it has ever reported an issue again." I stared at him. "That's because they probably got scammed and didn't want to admit it." He shook his head. "You don't get it, man. There are rules, no refunds, no cancellations. You get the service and they protect you from everything, but you can't ever interfere." I laughed. "Interfere with what?" Eric didn't answer. That night, he disappeared. The next morning, I got a text from him at 4:12 a.m. It was just 3 words. "They're here, goodbye." I called him immediately. No answer. By noon, I was at his apartment. His car was in the lot, his door was locked, and no one had seen him leave. I banged on the door until his old neighbor, Mrs. Larkin, opened her door and told me to shut the hell up. I had a spare key. Eric had given it to me months ago when he locked himself out once. I used it. The place was spotless. No garbage, no dirty clothes, no sign of struggle. Just clean. Too clean. Eric wasn't a neat guy. His apartment was always a mess. Empty Monster cans, crumpled fast food bags, ashtrays full of cigarette butts. But now, it looked staged. His laptop was open on his desk, sitting there like it had been left for me to find. There was an unread message on the screen. "Your protection has begun." I felt my stomach drop. I checked the whole place. No signs of forced entry, no struggle, nothing weird except the fridge was empty, not just missing a few things, empty. No beer, no leftovers, no ketchup bottles, just a hollow, sterile fridge. And his closet? Same thing. No clothes, just the empty hangers. I opened his dresser. Every single drawer was empty. It was like no one had ever lived there. And then I found the gun. It was lying under his mattress, fully loaded, safety off. Eric never left his gun like that. He was paranoid about safety. If he was running from something, he would have taken it. That's when I knew he didn't leave, he was taken. I called the cops, told them my friend was missing. They asked if there was a struggle. I told them no. They asked if anything was stolen. I said no. They asked if he had enemies. I hesitated. Then I told them about the dark web service. Big mistake. The officer on the phone sighed. "Sir, do you have any actual evidence of a crime?" "What? My friend is missing," I snapped. "Sir, adults are allowed to disappear. There's no sign of a break-in, no sign of foul play. If you want to file a missing persons report, you can come down to the station." They weren't going to do anything. I hung up. I sat down at Eric's desk, staring at his laptop screen. The message was still open. "Your protection has begun." I clicked back to his emails, his messages, his files. Nothing. It was wiped clean, his entire digital life erased. But there was one thing left, a video file, untitled, time-stamped from last night. I clicked it. At first, it was just Eric, sitting at his desk, his eyes darting back and forth like he was listening to something just outside the frame. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. His face was pale, sweaty. He opened his mouth like he was about to say something. Then he froze. His eyes went wide. His breathing stopped. And then something moved behind him. I swear to God, I don't know what I saw. It wasn't a person, it wasn't a shadow. It was like the space behind him bent inward, a warping black hole swallowing the light. It spread across the wall, stretching toward him like a living thing. Eric didn't scream. He didn't run. He just stopped existing. 1 second he was there. The next, he wasn't. The video ended. I stared at the screen, my hands shaking. My brain refused to process it. Then my phone vibrated, a new text. No number, no name, just 3 words. You are protected. I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't. I sat on my couch with all the lights on, my laptop open, watching the video over and over again, trying to make sense of it, trying to see if maybe, just maybe, there was some logical explanation for what I'd just watched. But there wasn't. Eric was there, and then he wasn't. It wasn't a camera glitch. It wasn't an illusion. It was real. And now someone, or something, had texted me saying, "You are protected." What the hell did that mean? I deleted the message immediately, turned off my phone, and unplugged my router. I wasn't taking any chances. At some point I must have dozed off because the next thing I knew, I was waking up to the sound of my doorbell. It was 3:45 a.m. I didn't move, didn't breathe, just stared at the door. The doorbell rang again, longer this time, like whoever was out there wasn't just waiting, they were demanding. I grabbed the gun from my nightstand. I wasn't Eric. I didn't own some fancy Glock. It was a shitty old revolver I bought off a guy I knew from work. Never even fired it before, but right now I didn't care if it exploded in my hands. I just needed something. The doorbell went silent. Then my phone vibrated. I didn't turn it back on. I knew I didn't turn it back on, but it was sitting on my coffee table, the screen lighting up with a notification. One new message. No number, no name, just, "Open the door." I raised the gun, aiming it at the door, like that was going to do anything. I wasn't even thinking straight. My heart was hammering against my ribs, my throat dry as hell. Then my phone buzzed again. "We are here to protect you." I couldn't take it. I grabbed my keys and bolted out the back door. I didn't go back home. I drove, just drove. Out of town, past the freeway, out into the middle of nowhere, until my gas light came on. By the time I stopped, I was at some shitty gas station off Route 9. I filled up, went inside, and bought an energy drink, trying to pretend everything was normal. The cashier, some old guy with a stained NASCAR hat, didn't even look at me as he rang me up. But then, just as I was turning to leave, he muttered something. Quiet. Almost like he wasn't even talking to me. "You should go home." I stopped, turned back. "What?" The guy didn't look up, just kept bagging my drink. I swallowed hard. "What did you just say?" He set the bag on the counter. "Your protection is waiting." My skin went cold. I grabbed my drink and practically ran back to my car. As soon as I got inside, I locked the doors and started the engine. My hands were shaking so bad I almost dropped the keys. That's when I saw it. The security camera. It was pointed directly at the gas pumps, right at me. I had a thought, a really bad, really stupid thought, but I couldn't shake it. What if I checked the footage? I don't know why I did it. Maybe I just needed to prove to myself that I wasn't losing my mind. Maybe I needed to see something that made sense. So I got out of the car, went back inside, and leaned over the counter. "Hey, you got cameras here, right?" The old guy gave me a slow look. "Yeah," he said. I pulled out my wallet, shoved a 50 onto the counter. "Can I see 'em?" He took the bill, tucked it in his pocket. Then, without a word, he turned and walked into the back room. A minute later, he came out with an old-ass laptop. He set it on the counter, turned it around. "Which time?" I swallowed. "Like 2 minutes ago." He clicked through a few files, pulled up the footage. The screen flickered to life. I saw my car. I saw me stepping out of it. And then, nothing. The footage skipped. 1 second, I was there. The next, I was gone. Just gone, like I'd never been there at all. I felt my stomach twist. The old man just closed the laptop. "You should go home now." I didn't say anything. Didn't move. I was too busy trying to ignore the fact that my phone had just buzzed again. A new message. "Do not try that again." I didn't go home, not after that. I got back in my car and just sat there, gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles went white. My head was spinning, my heart pounding. They erased me, not just Eric, not just his apartment. Mister, I looked right at the screen. My body was there 1 second, and then it wasn't. Like I had never stepped out of that car. I don't even remember driving away. My body just did it for me, hands on autopilot, mind completely blank. I wasn't thinking about where I was going. I just knew I had to keep moving. But the second I turned onto the freeway, my headlights caught something. A black SUV tailgating me. I checked my mirrors. No plates, no logo, just blacked out windows. I changed lanes. So did they. I slowed down. So did they. I fucking floored it. They did too. I weaved through traffic, pushing my shitty 2009 Honda Civic like it was a damn getaway car. My heart was slamming against my ribs, my hands shaking as I gripped the wheel. I knew I had no chance. If they wanted me, they were going to take me. And then the SUV backed off, slowed down, pulled onto an exit and vanished. I kept driving, eyes locked on my rearview mirror, waiting for it to come back. It didn't. But my phone buzzed. I didn't want to look. I did not want to look, but I did. A new message. "You do not need to run. You are protected." I threw my phone into the passenger seat, breathing hard. My mind was racing. I didn't feel protected. I felt like prey. And that's when I made my second mistake. I went to the cops. The station was half empty when I walked in. Night shift. One bored-looking officer sitting behind the desk, scrolling through his phone. He didn't even look up when I walked in. "Need something?" I tried to calm myself, tried to sound normal. "I need to report a missing person." He sighed, finally looking up at me. "Who?" I licked my lips. "My friend, Eric." His eyes flicked to his monitor. He started typing. "Last name?" I told him. He typed it in, paused, typed again, frowned. "I don't have any records for an Eric last name." My stomach dropped. "What?" The officer spun the monitor towards me. "No reports. No ID, no DMV records. You sure you got the right name?" I felt my throat tighten. Yeah, I'm sure." He leaned back in his chair. "Well, I don't know what to tell you." I gripped the counter. "That's impossible. He had a driver's license, a bank account, a fucking apartment. Look again." The officer sighed, turning back to his screen. "You got a picture of him?" I reached for my phone. Opened my gallery. Scrolled. Nothing. My fingers froze. I checked my messages, every text, every conversation I had with Eric. Gone. My stomach turned to ice. The officer was still looking at me. "Sir?" I backed up, shook my head, and walked out. I sat in my car for a long time, staring at my phone. My mind was unraveling. Eric wasn't just missing, he was erased, and now they were doing it to me. I unlocked my phone and pulled up my contacts. I called my mom. It rang once, twice, then, "Hello?" I exhaled. "Mum?" She paused. "Who's this?" I felt my chest tighten. "Mum, it's me." Another pause. "I'm sorry," she said. "I don't know anyone by that name." The call ended. I dropped my phone. My hands were shaking. My own mother didn't know me. My pulse was thudding in my ears, my breath coming fast and shallow. This wasn't just about Eric anymore. They were getting rid of me. I grabbed my keys, turned the ignition, and sped out of the parking lot. I had no idea where I was going. I just knew one thing. I couldn't let them catch me. I had to figure out what the hell was happening before I disappeared too. I drove for hours, out of town, past the suburbs, past everything familiar. At some point, I ended up in a parking lot outside a 24-hour Denny's. I hadn't eaten all day, and my hands were starting to shake from more than just fear. I went inside, sat down in a booth, ordered coffee. The place was almost empty, just me, a trucker in the corner, and an old lady reading a newspaper. The waitress poured my coffee, barely looking at me. I reached for the sugar, my hands still unsteady. Then I noticed something. The newspaper the old woman was reading. It was open to the obituaries. And right there, staring back at me, was a name I knew. Eric. I felt my breath catch in my throat. Died 3 days ago. No cause of death. No funeral service. Just gone. I swallowed hard. "Excuse me," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. The old woman didn't look up. I swallowed again. "Where did you get that paper?" She finally glanced at me. Her face was lined, her eyes cloudy. She looked me up and down, then she smiled, and slid the newspaper across the table. I hesitated, reached for it. There was something scribbled in the margins, handwritten, small, shaky letters. "You are next." My blood went cold. I looked up at her, my pulse hammering. But she was gone. The booth was empty. Just the paper sitting there, mocking me. And then my phone buzzed. A new message. Go home. I didn't go home. I couldn't. Not after that. Not after seeing Eric's name in the obituaries. Not after that old woman, who wasn't even fucking real, left me a handwritten death sentence in the margins of a newspaper. I left the Denny's so fast I forgot my coffee was still full. I didn't care. I got in my car, locked the doors, and tried to breathe. My phone was still sitting face up on the passenger seat. The message was there, glaring at me. Go home. Fuck that. I started driving. No plan, no direction, just away. As far from the city as I could get. Maybe I could get off the grid. Maybe I could figure out what was happening. But 10 minutes later, I noticed something. Every street I turned onto looked familiar. Every exit I took felt like I'd already driven it. And then I saw it. A gas station, the same gas station, the one from earlier. I slammed on the brakes. My chest felt tight. My breath caught in my throat. I gripped the wheel, shaking my head. No, that's impossible. I drove in a straight fucking line. I looked around. Empty highway. No other cars. No signs. Just me and that same old gas station with the same flickering neon light. I checked my phone. No signal. Then my engine shut off. By itself. No warning. No sputtering. Just dead. My stomach turned to ice. I fumbled with the keys. Tried turning them. Nothing. No lights on the dashboard. No sound. Like the battery had been yanked out. Then my headlights flickered. Not on and off. They dimmed. Like something was standing in front of them, blocking them out little by little. I didn't want to look. I did not want to look. But my eyes betrayed me. I glanced up, and for the first time I saw it. I don't know how to describe it. It wasn't a person, wasn't an animal. It wasn't even a shape. It was absence, like a tear in reality, a smear of darkness that wasn't supposed to be there. And it was moving toward me. I locked the doors. Stupid, I know, but my brain wasn't working. My hands were clammy, my breath ragged. I could feel something in the air, like pressure building, like the atmosphere itself was wrong. Then, a knock, not on my window, from inside the car behind me. I turned so fast I almost snapped my own neck, but nothing. The back seat was empty. Then my phone buzzed. I didn't want to check it. I fucking knew what it was going to say. But my hands moved on their own, flipping the screen over. A new message. Last warning, go home. I took the warning. I didn't have a choice. The second my headlights flickered back to normal, my car started up again. Just like that. I turned around and drove home. Not because I wanted to, because I was made to. I knew somehow that if I kept trying to run, I wouldn't just disappear like Eric. I'd end up somewhere worse. I got back to my apartment around 4 a.m. Everything looked normal. My parking spot was empty, my door was still locked. But I didn't go inside right away. I just sat there, gripping the wheel, staring at my building. I was afraid. Not of what was inside. Not of what was waiting for me. I was afraid that I'd walk in and find nothing. That my apartment would be gone. Like Eric's, like my past, like I was never supposed to exist. But when I finally stepped inside, it was all there. My couch, my TV, my pile of unopened mail on the kitchen counter, like nothing had happened. But something had happened, and I knew it the second I saw the envelope on my coffee table. Crisp, white, unmarked. I picked it up with trembling fingers and tore it open. Inside was a single slip of paper. Your protection has been activated. I dropped it, staggered back. Because I did not sign up for this. I didn't pay for anything. I didn't order a fucking personal security package. But somehow, I was part of it now. And I knew exactly what that meant. Eric wasn't missing. He was collected, and I was next. I didn't sleep. I didn't eat. I didn't do anything except sit there, staring at that piece of paper, waiting for something, anything to happen. And at 6:06 a.m. it did. My door unlocked, not opened, unlocked. Click. My breath caught in my throat. I didn't move. I didn't even breathe. The knob twisted. Then my phone buzzed. A new message. Go to sleep. I didn't. I sat there until the sun came up, until my body was so exhausted I physically couldn't keep my eyes open anymore. And when I finally did fall asleep, I dreamed of nothing. Not darkness, not nightmares, just absence. Like I didn't exist at all. I woke up in an empty apartment. At first, I thought it was still mine. The walls looked the same, the floors, the layout, everything was identical. But then I noticed the details. The TV wasn't mine, the couch wasn't mine, the fucking clothes on my body weren't mine. I sat up too fast, my head spinning, my heart was already hammering. Where the fuck was I? I grabbed my phone off the nightstand. It unlocked without a password. No background photo, no contacts, no messages, nothing. It wasn't my phone. And then I realized there were no doors, no windows, just 4 white walls and a single hallway leading into another room. I stood up, my legs weak beneath me. I ran my hands along the walls, searching for seams for a way out. Smooth, seamless, perfect. Then my phone buzzed. Good morning. I swallowed hard, my fingers trembling as I typed back. Where am I? The reply came instantly. You are home. I didn't know how long I was in there. There was no clock, no daylight, nothing to mark the passage of time. The fridge was stocked with food, but the labels were all blank. Plain white packaging, no brand names, no expiration dates, just food. I didn't eat. I couldn't. I sat in the middle of the floor, my back against the wall, staring at the phone in my hands. No apps, no internet. The only thing that worked was the messaging system, and every time I stopped responding, I got the same text. Do not be afraid. Over and over and over, like a broken record. Like a command. At some point I slept again. I don't remember lying down. I don't remember closing my eyes. I just woke up. And when I did, the room was different. There was a door now, not a normal one. It was huge. Floor to ceiling, smooth black metal. No handle, no peephole. Just a single white symbol etched into the center. A circle with a smaller circle inside, like an eye. My phone buzzed. Do you accept our protection? My hands felt like ice. My skin prickled. I didn't type back. I didn't move. Then, buzzed. Do you accept our protection? Louder this time. The phone vibrated so hard I almost dropped it. And then, without thinking, I typed one word. No! The second I hit send, the door opened. I should have run. I should have fought. I should have done something, but I couldn't move because there was something standing there, something that wasn't supposed to exist. It wasn't a person. It wasn't a machine. It was wrong. Like a mannequin that had never been finished, limbs too long, head too smooth, skin like polished bone. And it was smiling, not with its mouth. It had no mouth. But I felt it. I felt the grin spread through the air like static, like heat, like it was sinking into my skin and pulling me apart from the inside. Then my phone buzzed one last time, a single word, goodbye, and then nothing. I woke up in my bed, my apartment, my life, like nothing had ever happened. My phone was normal, my texts were normal. I had notifications from Instagram, from work, from my bank. My door was locked. My fridge was full of the same junk food I'd left in it. It was normal, except for one thing. Eric was still gone. No records, no mention of him anywhere, not online, not in my phone, not even in my own memory. I sat there, staring at my reflection in the TV screen, trying to think, trying to remember his face, his voice, his laugh. Nothing. It was erased, like he had never existed at all. I don't talk about what happened. Not to my friends, not to my family, not to anyone. I don't ask questions, I don't dig, because I know what happens when you try to interfere. They gave me a second chance, a reset, a warning, and I'm not making the same mistake twice. So if you ever find yourself on the dark web, scrolling through sketchy forums, looking for something you shouldn't be looking for, if you ever see an ad for total personal security, 24/7 protection from all threats, keep scrolling, delete your history, forget you ever saw it, because if you don't, they'll make you.